Hello and welcome to the first ever Pumas podcast. This is your Mukbang Monday presented to you by KFC Modbury. I'm your host, James Dimopoulos, alongside of me, Cooper Martin. Cooper, how are you, mate?
I'm really good, thanks yourself, James.
Yeah.
Excited for an episode.
Mate, I'm absolutely pumped. I kid you not. We've got a couple of special guests in the back. Cooper, you want to introduce them, mate?
Yeah, of course. We've got a couple of Pumas players. We've got Roberto Antonelli eating his chicken back there. And we've got Manticos. How are we, boys?
Yes, sir. Fantastic.
Excellent, boys. And what's the meal of choice?
Ultimate boxes. The Colonel's the best.
Popcorn chicken, brother.
Popcorn chicken. So, nicely said, boys. All right. So this is a podcast that pretty much covers your first team game, any sort of news circulating around the club. We cover our 3-2-1s and we critique every individual player's performances. Cooper, where do we start, mate?
We start with our first team and going through our lovely team app sorted list posted by Coach Jai Tatani this week. We're going to start with club captain Shane Winter. What did you think of his performance on the weekend?
Yeah, look, mate, just before we cover Shane Winter, I just want to say, Jai Tatani, new coach of the Adelaide Pumas, new feel around the club, a lot of energy, a lot of positivity. What are your thoughts?
I just think it's what the players want. They got a first team coach that they want to play for, a first team coach that they want to win for, and the buzz around the club says that we're ready to taste some success finally this season.
Yeah. We'll get straight into the swing of things. Shane Winter, captain of the Pumas. He's been outstanding, if you ask me, over the past few weeks. I'm not too sure if he made an appearance in the Cup game.
No appearance from Shane in the Cup game.
No appearance, right. And I think he was replaced by the ever so gracious
Josh McQueen.
Josh McQueen, that's the one. All right, so Shane Winter, how'd you rate his game, Coop?
I think Shane had a strong performance in the heart of midfield on the weekend. I wouldn't say one of his best. I think he was there. He had a good influence, and probably like the rest of the boys, he had a really strong first 50, 60 minutes or so, and then faded out of the game a little bit. And I think 90-minute performances is when this team is going to start seeing some positive results, when their main key players, especially like the club captain Shane Winter, start putting in these 90-minute performances. Yeah,
look, mate, I'd have to agree with you there somewhat. I think Shane had a great game. I think he is the core of that team in the midfield there. He does lead by example, and he is commanding this team, and I'm sure that he's going to lead this team to a great result soon. Nonetheless, the result on the weekend, Saturday's game against Fizzy, we did go down 4-2. We did show some absolutely positive signs out there. The boys really rallied together. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the job done. Nonetheless, it was a respectable result at Thomas Turner Reserve. Let's continue on with things. Adam Fedornak, goalkeeper.
Fedornak, what a start to the season this bloke's had, first of all. He would be leading the best and fairest by a length and a half at the moment, I would say. He's been immaculate between the two sticks, and I think we would have been losing in games a lot heavier if Adam hadn't been in form. On the weekend, I don't think he had a heck of a lot to do, to be honest. It was probably the team's best defensive performance of the year so far, which did sort of quell Adam's storm a bit. When he was needed, he put in a shift, but again, just not a lot to do, and really not a lot to rate him off. I just think consistent at best.
Yeah, look, I think Adam's an absolute superstar. Definitely has paid off his rego a couple of times, I reckon. So I mean, if he was getting those food vouchers from where are they from?
The Clover Crest Hotel.
I think if he was getting those food vouchers from the Clover Crest, mate, he could be shouting the bar a few times over.
He'd be having a banquet at the moment.
He would.
Sure.
I think he was excellent again between the sticks. Look, things don't go your way, but you know, all in all, I think he's been the best Pumas player so far. Good on you, Adam. All right, we get to one of the key midfielders, Finn Marshall. And I might start us off with this one.
If you would like to start us off.
Finn, absolutely stellar first 15-20. You might as well have taken him off the park after that, because I didn't see him once.
Yeah,
Cooper?
Look, I think he started deep on the pitch in a centre midfield role. The ball was obviously finding its way out of the back line to him, and he was able to play diagonals and things like that to his wingers. He had Marcus DeMarco out on his left, Manticos out on his right, Lawrence Chan applying the pressure through the number 9 role. But I think Finn advanced a little bit further up the pitch after the first 20-25 minutes or so. And after that, he just did seem to to fade out of the game a bit. I think he had a much stronger impact from centre midfield, and that's something that Coach Jai Tatani might take a stronger look at during this week. But I think Finn's another one of those players that when he does manage to put a full 90-minute performance together, it could be something very special for the club.
Yeah, look, mate, I think that Finn was definitely an area with threat. Hopefully we can get him in the back seat one day. Let's move on. Noel Armstrong. He's coming far, I reckon. I think his defensive game has been something to talk about.
Obviously, being there from day one of pre-season this season, Noel Armstrong was a player that I thought was going to be a very good B grader, but probably not a lot more than that. But I think he's come a very long way, just purely with what he's doing in matches. He was probably the solider of the two Pumas fullbacks on the weekend on that left side, and he didn't do a lot, but he did what was asked of him, and that was to play those balls down that line to Marcus DeMarco and just use the fact that we did have a lot of pace going up forward on the weekend. And I think Noel, solid at the back, no real defensive errors, no issues with him at the back, and the balls he played forward were good. I think Noel was one of the stronger performers on the weekend in a game against a very fast and flashy Fizzy team when I thought he might have struggled.
Yeah, look, I have to agree there. I think coming to the Pumas, coming to a new club, he had a lot to learn, but I think now it's safe to say that he knows a lot. So good on him, and I hope that he keeps a spot up in that A team. And yeah, well done, Noli. Good performance, mate. Daniel Love, D-Love. They call him D-Love.
They do call him D-Love. I D-Love his performance on the weekend, I think.
Mate.
Honestly, I might leave the puns to you in future, Dim, but on a serious note, I think D-Love's performance this year has... He's been pretty consistent so far this season, but I think 6 out of 10 at best in most weeks. But having one of his better friends at the club, and I think a solid centre-back next to him in Kieran Evans this week really made D-Love go from that 6 out of 10 to an 8 or 9 out of 10.
I've got to agree. I think Big Kevy back there definitely... you can't... It's working. It's working back there.
It's definitely
working. And I think Kevy's a bit more comfortable back there. He's getting a bit of a breather now, and he's not overworking himself in that midfield, which he is strong in as well, but I think he's perfect down there in centre-back.
He's where he's supposed to be.
Yeah. Corey Manticos, the man in the back. Look, we're going to leave it to the man himself to actually critique his own game. Corey, how'd you feel out there, mate?
Yeah, look, it was hard. They're a fast team, like a good team, very skillful.
We know that Fizzy like to play down the corridor. They're a team that almost play like a futsal team to a sense. So we know that they've been getting the results at their home ground. They've got that smaller field. Thomas Turner Reserve, a bit wider, a bit larger. So pressing them out wide, I think really helped in that first half. Did you feel like you guys had more space on those wings? Did you think? Did it feel like Fizzy were trying to keep the game in the corridor?
I feel like the bigger pitch actually complemented them better because they're a much quicker team. They could just go through the wings and stuff and break us down because they're pace, so it's hard.
Yeah. Your performance, you played right back, I presume? No?
Right wing.
Right wing, that's right, yeah. You played right wing. I thought you played right back, mate. You were up and down that park all day. I thought your touches were brilliant. I thought you had a reasonably good game. There were moments where we didn't see you, but when we saw you, you did have an impact. So well done on that. If you had to give a player a 3 in that game, who'd you go to?
Oh, Kieran Evans, 100%.
Kieran Evans, nicely said. All right, moving on. We'll head down to Marcus DeMarco. Now, we know this lad doesn't have his L's, okay? He still doesn't have his learners. But if there's one thing that he doesn't need to learn, it's how to play the game of soccer. The guy is fast, he's agile, he's a good touch, and he can go all day. Your thoughts, Cooper?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he gets that from being a Campbelltown City boy. At the start of the season when I saw him run, you couldn't tell he was a DeMarco because Nathaniel lacks pace, that's a certainty. But Nathaniel also lacks a groin at the moment, I'm being made aware of at the moment.
Yeah, look, we'll cover Nathaniel in the news. That'll follow these...
in the injury report?
Yep.
But Marcus, I thought Marcus was fantastic on the weekend. One of his better games for the club. Obviously, he had a strong performance off the bench. Came off the bench at halftime against MA Hawks a few weeks ago. Played up front and he was strong then. But I think starting, played out 90 minutes. It was probably Marcus's best performance for the club. As I said, linked well with Noel Armstrong up on that left side. Put a few dangerous balls in, and I thought Lawrence Chan was good up front, but a lot just didn't fall his way, and he wasn't able to get on the end of DeMarco crosses perhaps as well as he should have been able to. But that's football at the end of the day, and we'll hope that Lawrence can take a few more of those opportunities next week.
Well said, Cooper. You beauty, rippity tippity tipper. Let's get on with Kieran Evans now. He's an absolute star. He's the biggest aerial threat in the game for the Pumas. He may not have been the biggest aerial threat in the first 15 or 20, but this bloke is on the end of the balls when they matter. And I thought he had a great game in centre-back. Everything's going right. This bloke's got a little one on the way. He missed out on Aladdin the other night, but that doesn't matter because he was absolutely firing on Saturday.
In stellar form.
He's got my 3 votes. Robbie, what do you think of Kieran's performance?
Absolutely astounding. He just knows where to be and is a maestro on the ground.
Brilliant, Robbie. So, Kieran, I don't think we need to touch base on Kieran that much.
I think there might be a neutral agreement in the Mukbang Mondays car tonight that Kieran Evans is the only man from the weekend deserving of those 3 votes.
You should get 4 votes.
All right, Lawrence Chan. Mate, this bloke has faced some adversity over the past couple months. He has been in the thick of things. He's gotten his feet wet. He's gotten his hands wet. He's gotten his face dirty. Cooper.
He's a workhorse. What can you say? He runs not just for him, not just for his team, but he runs for the club. He runs for 90 minutes when he can until he's got nothing left.
This bloke's not putting in a shift. He's putting in overtime.
He's putting in overtime. 100%.
People are calling in sick. This guy's stepping up, and he's still working.
He is still working. I just think his run was brilliant. I just think he does need to direct that run in this coming week against Stirling District to try and get on the end of a few more and score a few goals. He's playing in that number 9 role because we know he can finish, and I just think it's important that, especially this week coming, because we do have an opportunity for 3 points, probably our biggest opportunity of the season to take 3 points this weekend away to Stirling District. I think it's important that if Lawrence Chan does get a chance this weekend, that he does take it.
Yeah, I think fitness isn't a worry for the young lad. I think he's proving that he does deserve to be in that A grade team, and he's just a few short steps from, I'd say, consolidating a position there. Hassan, I didn't see much of Hassan.
Hassan off the bench this week. I thought Hassan's efforts in the cup were fantastic. Nothing necessarily went his way. We were a bit ball dominated by Sturt Marion, obviously Sunday Div 1 side, and I think Hassan, he earned his spot in the first team side this week, and all credit to the guy. But I imagine in the next few weeks we will be seeing Hassan in the seconds trying to earn that first team spot back. He's just been a bit quiet this week off the bench. He didn't have the impact that Tatani might have hoped he would have, and as an impact player off the bench, when you're not having that impact, it is likely that the coach will try and find another source of impact through another player. So Hassan might be the unlucky one to fall out of this side, to fall out of the A grade squad this weekend. But in saying that, with a player that has the ability of Hassan, when it does start to click, I wouldn't be surprised to see him back in the first team at some point this year. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised either. I think Hassan, he does his job, whether that's in the first or the seconds, and I think that given a proper opportunity in the first, I think he will prove to Coach Jai Tatani that he deserves to be there. So, yeah, I mean, we can't really critique his game much because he was on for about 25 to 30. But nonetheless, I'm sure he'll have more opportunities in the future. Brett Chatterton. Big bad Brett. The truck, the fridge, the whole damn factory, mate. How would you critique this bloke's game?
I think Brett is the kind of fullback that's going to put a body shift in every single week. He's not afraid to win an airball, not afraid to win a contest, and no one's ever going to outstrength him. But I just think Brett was a little bit exposed on the weekend by the pace and skill of some of the fizzy players. I feel like
You're not wrong.
Not to any fault of his own. I just feel like the threat and speed of the fizzy players on the weekend running at him probably isn't something he's faced this season, and it might have caught him off guard a little bit. on probably 2 or 3 occasions throughout the game, but I think for the rest of the game, Brett was pretty solid, and off the back of a solid start to the season in a pretty shaky backline, I think Brett will find himself still in the first team squad, and I think he could count himself very unlucky if he does have a week in the seconds.
Yeah, look, I might just cut you off there, Cooper, because I don't think Brett's the only one who's going to be caught off guard at training. He might come after you after those snarky comments, mate. But nonetheless, I do have to agree with you there. The pace, I think, caught up to Brett as much as he'd like to catch up to the pace. Ryan Thurston. I'm not going to lie. I've almost forgotten who Ryan is.
Ryan Thurston may be better known around the Adelaide Pumas as Mozzie.
Oh, that's right, Mozzie. How could I forget the mosquito?
We could also call Moz at the moment, and he's gonna absolutely hate me for this little stab in the guts. But I think Moz has an allergy to open goals because he's missed a few in the last few weeks in situations that might have seen the Pumas in a few better spots. But Moz is one you've got to persist with him because his performances are consistent regardless of the opportunities he's bundled in the last few weeks. And once it clicks, Moz will score goals.
I personally think he's been great. He's been a great addition to the first team. I don't know where this bloke's come from, but I think he's been a perfect addition. He's pacey, he's smart on the ball, and he's got a great touch. And that's no lie. I just didn't know his name was Ryan Thurston. Everyone calls him Mozzie.
I don't think anyone knew his name was Ryan Thurston.
Mozzie, if you're out there, mate, address the rumour, address the news. We're going to need you to cover a shift in the back seat of Cooper's car one night on a Mukbang Monday. So, yeah, we'll definitely be getting you on the couch, mate.
Two extra quick additions who we haven't got on the list in front of us. The other 2 subs that came off the bench on the weekend, we had Scotty Winter, club legend. I think Scotty came on and he did the job he needed to do. He was only on the park for about 10 minutes, so I'd almost say not applicable for Scotty.
Look, Scotty Winter, mate.
He's the heart of the Pumas.
Yeah, he's the heart of the Pumas, like Rob said. When it sprains, it pours, mate. And we know Scotty's sprained both wrists in the So, the guy, he is the definition of a workhorse. Corey, you got anything to say about this bloke? Because I could sit here for days and talk about Scotty's commitment to this club. He loves this club. His family love this club. He's a part of the furniture. Scotty, mate, you are a magician out there. When you're on. You're tough. I haven't been able to get around you in the past, mate. So, good on you. And I'm sure you will find your place in that first team as well when you are 100% back. We know that you're still obviously recovering from those 2 sprained wrists. So when you do come back, mate. So
putting in the hard work because he wants that spot.
Yeah, he does want that spot, Rob. You're not wrong, buddy. Good on you, Scotty. Who else came off the bench?
And the last player, forgive me a million because I'm going to bosh this last name as hard as you possibly can. Darren Monsignor.
Yeah, the Frenchman. Darren.
He might be French just purely from his name, but Daz, let us know if we're wrong because you're the most Leighton Hewitt looking bloke I've ever seen in my life.
Darren, you're probably the furthest from a French bloke I've ever seen. If I look at you, Darren, I'm thinking, Elizabeth Vales.
Sausage rolls and tins.
It's a long way to the shop if you want a sausage roll.
I'm thinking the drive-through, the Hungry Jack's drive-through near what's that go-kart? Jeps Cross. I'm thinking the Jeps Cross drive-in when I look at you.
Farmers Union ice coffee.
I wouldn't be thinking. I wouldn't be thinking an espresso and a croissant under the Eiffel Tower. That's for sure.
And he doesn't play football like he's got an escargot.
Yeah, nonetheless, he's the Bees captain, and I think for a bloke who's come into the club, who's fresh-faced, he's playing his part. He's playing his role in as captain of the Bees, and I think that he's been a great addition into the midfield there. And mate, this bloke time and time again is getting opportunities in the A team. So I think eventually, we could be seeing the Bees captain step up to the starting 11 maybe.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, it's a big possibility, especially with we know the coach loves him. We know Jai loves him. We know Jai backs him every week in, week out.
One thing I've got to add to that, if anyone wants to question Jai Tatani's thoughts on Darren, remember that Jai did start the season as the coach of the second, the head coach of the B grade, and he did make Darren his captain.
He did, and I don't think anybody else was really in question. I did think that Jai knew that every player that he was going to put out in that park is capable of leadership, Sam being one of them. But I think, Darren came out to preseason and really, really stepped it up and led by example. So good on you, Darren. 3-2-1s. We're going to get 3-2-1 from everyone in this car. Personally, I go 3 votes Kieran. I think Kieran was exceptional. 2 votes for me. I'm going to swing the way of Marcus DeMarco. I think that he was a huge impact player. I think the ball was on his side of play for a while. I never saw him walking. 1 point, look, I'll probably give it to D-Love. I don't think D-Love is the paciest centre-back. But, the way, D-Love and Brett work together, the chemistry there, especially with Kevin, that centre-back role as well. I think D-Love was commanding. He was communicating. I'm going to give D-Love 1 point. So I go 3 votes Kevin, 2 votes to Marcus DeMarco, 1 vote to D-Love.
Look, with my 3-2-1s this week, I'm going to go very similar to yourself with one slight change. No arguments with 3 votes. Kay Evans, that's where my 3 votes are going as well. Kev was fantastic on the weekend, and there's no questioning him having 3 votes at all. And then I'm going to go 2 votes Daniel Love and 1 vote Marcus DeMarco.
Excellent. Corey?
Yeah, I'd go 3 votes for Kev. He was probably best on ground. I reckon Marcus with the 2, as you said, great impact player. But I reckon Knowlesy had a pretty stellar performance at left back, so I reckon he will take my 1 vote.
Excellent. And Robbie?
No surprise with 3 votes to Kieran Evans again. He absolutely just dominated that game in terms of a personal performance for him. He just shot out of the gate and really had a point to prove to build the club up from the ground up again.
Excellent.
My 2 votes go to Shane Winter. I thought Shane worked very hard in that midfield to get it going. His communication was very key in that first half, and I thought that with more support that Shane definitely can make a big impact player for the Pumas this season. And my 1 vote to Noel Armstrong. Noel Armstrong had a stellar game in defence, I thought, and he's proven a lot of people wrong. So good on you, Noel.
Excellent, Robbie. So there you have it, folks. That is the player-by-player individual performance review. That is your 3-2-1s. Boys, news around the ground.
Injury report?
We'd go injury report, yep. Nathaniel DeMarco. Mate, when is he coming back? I see him at training, okay? Whether he's standing around, dropping his brother off, or whether he's actually participating. But what is going on?
The only confirmation I've got for you right now is that Nathaniel DeMarco is alive. He is, in fact, alive.
He is.
But that is all we know at this point. We don't know if he has 2 groins, 3 groins, or 1 groin. We don't know how long he's out for. We haven't had any news from Kelly. I don't think she knows much herself, and we haven't had any news from Nathaniel because I don't think he knows much himself either.
Snickety-clickety fingers, mate. Take the right approach and the necessary steps to getting yourself fit and strong and ready for the next game. I have heard rumours circulating that there were bets being placed that you were going to play less than 3 games. Mate, that'd be paying $1 right now. Get it together, Nathaniel. We need you back there, mate. We need you out there. We need that pace. We need that hunger. Where are you, Nathaniel?
He did attend training tonight.
He did attend training.
Well, he does. He is a club man. Obviously, he wants to be at training all the time because he wants to get better, but I don't see that happening in the next couple of games at all.
I have to agree. Look, there's no lack of trying there from Nathaniel. It's just I think he needs to take some necessary. I'd rather him not go out 100% into training if he's not going to be fit for game day.
He's a player we need. Obviously, I think at the moment we've got players like Darren, Scott, Hassan busting their gut off the bench, but we have players at the club that are incredibly good impact players, and at the moment we're missing out on them, and Nathaniel's one of them.
Yeah, I agree. Talking about impacts at the club, can we talk about a club man? What defines a club man? Leadership, chasing after balls, running the line. You know who I think of, Coop? You know who I think of?
I think he's dirty.
I think he's dirty, and his last name's Sturdy. Tyson Sturdy, mate, take a bow. Your performances on and off the pitch as of late have been nothing short of inspiring. Cooper?
The guy, he runs the line. He puts his hand up. When someone says, guys, there's a ball behind the goal, let's go and get it. Sturdy's the first guy to get it. Whether he's got a ton in his left, ton in his right, ton in both, the guy's the first one to put his hand or his beer up to do anything. And I mean, he runs the line every week. He puts back into the club every week. I don't think he's missed a single training this season. He wants to be a Pumas legend, and he's well on track to being that.
Yeah, look, he's washing the bibs, and he's calling dibs on doing all those extra chores. And I think he's a player worth mentioning, because I have seen him slip and slide between the seconds and the thirds. Where do you think Tyson's actually sitting right now in the scheme of things?
Not my hero, Sturds.
You heard it here first.
Look, I think Sturds is one of those players who's improving week in, week out. I think he said to me a couple of weeks ago that since the start of pre-season, he's dropped 9 or 10 kilos. And just by attending every training, playing every game, and doing all the extras, and you just know he's the kind of guy that does that. At the moment, I think Sturds is probably a 110% starter in the C grade, and he will probably be at least on the bench for the B grade every week. But he's a guy that wants to fight for that position, and with that attitude, he's going to find himself in the B grade in no time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's a defensive player, and I think there are there's a little bit to learn still. But I think he can tweak his game over the coming weeks or month at least, and I think he can find himself playing in that second grade easily, and probably starting. I think he's definitely got the passion.
There's no doubts about that.
Yep.
He wants to be there.
I agree, Rob. He definitely wants to be there. And look, I wouldn't be surprised seeing this man taking up more roles in the future at the Pumas, taking up more responsibility. More news around the ground, boys. What else do we have?
Just on the injury report front, the last one, we did miss one. Another Julian DeMarco.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a punctured lung or broken rib, one or the other. He would be just over 6 weeks away now, I dare say.
Yeah, 6 weeks. And Cooper, what about yourself?
Myself, look, I am clear to train as of 2 weeks' time. But again, just as part of rehab, light training, and unfortunately, I don't think we'll be seeing me in a Pumas strip until the 2020 season. Now,
look, mate, it'd be good to see you back. Now, this is a question that goes out to everyone. Andrew Brooko.
Oh, fuck.
Brooko, where do we start?
His intentions were good.
His intentions were good. Let's not dive into the personals, but let's talk from a player's perspective. What we thought was good and what we thought wasn't so good.
Personally, I think working alongside, obviously, Brooko gave, once I copped an injury this season, the end of my year, Brooko gave me the opportunity to coach the goalkeepers across the club, A grade, B grade, C grade, whatever was in attendance. And personally, I think, as Corey said, Brooko's intentions were fantastic. He came to the club with a plan and he knew what he wanted to do. And unfortunately, in saying that, I just don't think he had the tools to do what he wanted to do. I think with Tatani, we're seeing the football we've already seen in one game and in one training session from Tatani is real amateur league football, abusing the pace we do have, using the long ball. And I think Brooko's intentions and Brooko's game style was a fantastic emphasis, and you could see that a lot of work had gone into it, but it just, with the players we had and the ability we've got across the first team, we weren't quite there with Brooko's, with the teams he was putting out and the way we played the game. We weren't quite there for what he wanted to achieve, and obviously he's stepped away for personal reasons, whatever they may be. His personal decision to walk away from the club, and we are sad to see him go because he was a great bloke to have around the club. And it would have been interesting to see how he did start to adapt to the negative results we were getting, but at the end of the day, we'll never know the answer to that question now, and we just have to look forward to the Tatani era.
Yeah, Cooper, mate, I think that was fantastically said. I'm much like yourself. I think, look, Andrew was, in my eyes, he was enthusiastic, charismatic, nothing short of that. He does have a soccer brain, but I think just the overall formation for me, mate, I don't think was working. But I think he did his best. He did what he could. But you're right. You have to adapt and use the tools that you have. And I think we're seeing that now with Jai. But it would have been nice to see Brooko hang around for a little longer. And yeah, like you said, see how he changed and how he adapted over the coming weeks. It was a shame to see him go, but nonetheless, positive signs now with Jai. But yeah, it would have been great to see him hang around at least. I think.
Started.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get a comment from the players. Corey, we'll start with you, mate. I know you got your mouth full of with popcorn chicken. That's not. Yep. Let's get a couple. Yeah, let's get a couple of thoughts. Andrew Brooko, your coach for a while, at least 3 to 4 months or so. Your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, look, it was an up and down roller coaster really, because he dropped me to a B grade due to attitude reasons and stuff. But the more, he actually brought the best out of me, which was good because I didn't think I'd be learning much this season in amateur.
Look, I would agree. I think that I think there was a bit of a lack of discipline in your game, Corey. But I think nonetheless, yeah, I think he did bring the best out of you, and I think it could have been addressed differently. I think instead of saying that you couldn't be a midfielder or an attacking, midfielder or whatnot, I think the way it could have been addressed was that right now we need you where we need you, and that's in defence. I think that's what should have happened. I think that's the way it should have been addressed. Unfortunately, it didn't go that way, but it's good to see that you're still on this ship and that we are now going in a positive direction.
And Robbie, your thoughts on Brooko leaving the club? Obviously, you would have seen him from more of a club person perspective rather than a coach being a C grader, but what did you think about it?
No comment.
No comment from Robbie. It's all funny. Here we go.
What I was going to say is Brooko did come to the club with a new plan.
Yep.
Obviously, try and change the brand of amateur soccer.
Yep.
I thought his intentions were good. Obviously, he left due to personal reasons, but we can't disclose that. I thought it was the wrong decision by him to leave at such a critical moment as the Pumas, were in the negative. But it's his decision to leave, and we have to support him for that. But now it's just time for us to move on from that and just build as a club and just try and get the results we need and build as a team.
I agree, Rob. Well said, mate. That covers Andrew. All the best in the future, mate, wherever you end up.
Anyway, moving on back to the football side of things at the Adelaide Pumas. We had a return to training tonight, an injury return. Nick
Yes.
has played first team minutes this season, has also played B grade minutes this season. Could give Brett Chatterton a run for his money.
Absolutely.
And not just a run for his money,
Yeah.
but he could also...
This kid's a star.
Nick's presence, just the presence of Nick being back from injury, could just in itself improve the performances of Brett Chatterton.
Yeah,
because
this kid's an absolute star.
There's no doubting Nick's ability. There's no doubting how good he can be, and there's no doubting he plays the same position as Brett Chatterton. And I think, now there's more competition in that right back position that Brett will be needing to start performing not just consistently, but consistently well to keep his spot in the first team.
No, I wholeheartedly agree there. I think Nick is a player who's missing out on first team opportunities
But is Brett
simply
really
because he's
like
not
that?
training.
Yeah, that's the other question. Is Brett
Like,
really
I reckon
right
Brett
back?
is a better centre back, but because of how good like D-Love and Kev are now, it's really hard for him to push into that position. So
Well,
he's
I
getting
mean-
forced out of position.
Yeah, so Brett's going to have to step up a bit more, I'd say.
Or he's going to have to fight for centre back.
But I mean, if we're going by the amount of trainings people are putting in, Brett's there week in, week out.
100%.
He's
Whether
another one of those 100% effort players.
Yeah, so
Just dedication.
yeah,
Sometimes
I mean,
dedication
so
may not be
and
enough.
it's good to see Brett in a Pumas jacket still.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think Nick is a definite
Don't call
threat
him the George Michael for nothing.
to get back into that squad.
The Greek warlord.
I'd probably, you'd think you'd start him in the seconds. I'm this kid's biggest fan. I think he's aggressive on the park. He's also Greek, so he's got my vote of confidence.
He's a good bloke.
Yeah, and he's a top bloke. So words of advice, I mean, I'd say get to training because there's a spot for you there. But
Even if he's on the bench.
having said that, if Brett keeps performing, then Brett keeps his spot, in my eyes.
Brett has given no indication that he deserves to lose his position in the first team, so it's going to take a fight from Nick if he wants that spot.
Be an interesting internal battle, I'd say. An interesting internal battle. Any more news, boys?
I don't know if there's anyone that came back to train tonight. Alex is another bloke who can push through the A grade as well.
Oh, that's a huge call. I completely agree. That guy is built like an absolute mountain.
Like an Iranian war tank.
Like an Iranian
Shit,
war
yeah,
tank.
he is there.
He's also fast as anything.
And agile. on
And
the
he's
ball.
fit. I think, to be honest, he could push for centre back.
Centre-back.
I reckon he could
can
be a
push
centre
the
back.
midfield. As
I
good as our midfield is currently, now with Kev out of there, he could definitely take his spot.
I would love to see him try out centre back. I think with a bit of nurturing and a bit of training, refining his defensive game, I think that he could be a proper centre back.
Personally, I think he's such a versatile player, and I know no person aspires to be a substitute, but I think he's probably the best substitute we've got at the entire club right now. He can play in so many positions, and when you need something late in a game, whether it's a defensive effort to hold a lead, a goal to win you the game, or just a solid midfielder to shore things up, he's an option in all three of those positions.
Yeah, I completely agree
Also,
there.
on another note, Tony, what are your thoughts on him? Obviously missing this week's game due to injury. Where do you see him fit in the squad?
Rob, that's a great call, mate. Because we haven't seen him for 1 week, and I've also almost forgotten about Tones. And I miss him. I do miss him.
Can I get 4 frozen Mountain Dews, please? That's all, thanks. Thank you.
So, yeah, Corey, where do you see Tony fitting into this squad?
Look, I do miss him in the middle. Like, playing there last season in the B grade, he was... Like, I'm pretty sure he won one of the best and fairest. Like, he was a phenomenal player.
Look, I've got to say that
Oh, frozen Mountain Dews or defrost?
Frozen Pepsi?
Frozen Pepsi, baby.
It's not technical difficulty.
yeah, look, I've got to say that
It's always broken.
the guy is so strong and big, and you see these blokes in amateur soccer, and they're overweight, but they're midfielders, but they're strong in their positions, and they're commanding.
He's another one at the Pumas.
Yeah,
He's a
but they're
great-
commanding in their. You see Tony at training, and he's strong as anything. I want to see that on game day. I want to see him
He's just such a
commanding on game day. I don't want him to be a nice bloke on the field,
You
right?
get angry, you're
I'm
gonna
not-
get me.
Yeah, I'm not telling him to go out there and put fingers in buttholes, but I want him angry. Tony, get angry, mate. Get on that field and start knocking some sense into these other blokes that you're coming up against, all right?
You got rocks in your brain.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Get back out there, right? Get your bum bag on. I don't know what you carry in that bun bag anyway. What is in that bun bag?
Questionnaire.
Yeah, that you know what? That is the Pumas Podcast question of the night.
Is the That's Amore question of the night, ladies and gentlemen.
That is the That's Amore question of the night. What does Tony Centrella have in his bum bag? What does he carry in his bum bag? Boys, I want one thing Tony would carry in his bum bag.
Extra weights.
Deep heat.
I'm going to say a pocket knife for... I'm going to say a pocket knife. You never know when he's going to need it.
I can confirm that he does have baby wipes in there.
He does have baby wipes.
The gas
Thank
mask.
you very much.
The high altitude mask. Yeah, nonetheless. Yeah, Rob, you're right. Cooper, where do you see Tony fitting in now?
Tony's a lovely bloke, don't get me wrong. I think he is a player that, coming into the season, not just from other people, but from himself, had so much expectation to perform this season. And I think that's what's hurt him the most. I think he's a player that needs to go back to his roots. He needs a few weeks in the seconds to try and find some form again. And if he's able to do that, then I'd love to see him back in the first team.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tony just needs to, find that role in the first team. I think would it hurt Tony spending some time in the seconds?
Not at all. I think that's where he needs to be for a few weeks, just to find himself
But
at the
even
club
out of
again.
form. Even
Well
out
said.
of form, he's just a phenomenal player.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's a great player. And these are some guys. Right, we're going to finish the podcast off on some positives. Well, I mean, most of the whole thing's been positive. But we're going to finish this podcast off. We are at the point of the night, ladies and gentlemen, where we do grab the extra slushies, or the extra frozen Pepsis in this case. Mountain Dew was on defrost, as you may have heard. But let's end the night on some positives. We're talking 10 to 15 players gone from the Pumas this year, including myself, right? We're talking C players of last year, C's players, stepping up to A grade. Now, some of these players have never had a taste of A grade soccer. You know, your Bretts. And who else? Hassan.
Your Sams, your Bretts, your Hassans.
Sam, yeah.
Your Nathaniel DeMarcos. Who else have we got that hasn't had perhaps Noel Armstrong?
No? Yeah.
Finn hasn't necessarily had himself a senior game before, being one of the younger guys at the club. That can come to be expected. We got a little bit of A-grade experience with Shane in the midfield. I know Chan does have A-grade experience, but he spent most of the year in the seconds last year. So we do have a lot of blokes running around out there that didn't find themselves in first-team scenarios last year. Corey Manticos being one of them. Corey, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, just before we get to Corey, I mean, I'm not saying that these boys can hold a clean sheet against Brahma Lodge like Corey and I did last year, but I'm saying that they can put in an absolute shift and a half, stepping up to A grade from C grade. I mean, we lost possibly the entire. We lost the entire club.
We lost the
club's
core
A
of the
grade.
club.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Core
as
of the club's
Brooko always
first team.
said, we have the names on the team sheet. Like, we have the quality there. We just need to try and turn it into some W's.
These boys are stepping up, and I think they're doing a stellar job at the moment. I think they're doing a great job. And, I mean, put aside the scores that we've seen so far, put aside the results, we're talking C's of what division last year?
C grade last year. Well, as always, I think C, it would have been Division 6 or Division 5 as a C grade. And, I mean, that's a team, to be fair, that could have won the league last year. But again, a C grade division, and we got guys from that C grade team like John Parletta and Claudio that look like they could come into the first team foreground at some point this year. So
I mean, last year's C grade, don't get me wrong.
That wasn't a C grade.
That wasn't a C grade. That was more of a B team pushing.
Yeah, no, like Peter didn't want to be
A B team that didn't want to be in the Bs, that wanted to stay in the Cs. I mean, we had JP, who we would love to have back. We had Joe Pascale. We had Simo had a few in the Cs. He was more so. I mean, in my opinion, a committed Simo is an A's player. A committed Simo is an A player, and that's like Joe. JP could have pushed for A grade last year, where they were in that Div 1 Saturday. Yeah, you're right, Rob. He has bundles of talent.
they've gone from boys to men in the space of one off season.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's a credit to them.
yeah, I mean,
Another boy band group.
they've gone from playing quite mediocre talent to now playing some decent opposition. And I think that that's something to put forth in the podcast because... Rob, your thoughts?
Right now, you ask me.
Your thoughts, Rob? Thanks, mate. So, just as we begin to finish off our slushies, anything else from the boys? Once again, thank you, Corey and Rob. You guys were fantastic.
No problems. Thanks for having us on.
Next week, there may or may not be a podcast. We'll have to see how we go. But the week after, 2 weeks from now, definitely. Beautiful, Rob. Cooper.
I think it's been an excellent start tonight. Again, thanks to Rob and Corey. This show becomes, episode 1, but I can tell you right now, this show will become very stale and boring without special guests. We'll have an opportunity in 2 weeks' time to have a chat with Finn Marshall, who's been a pretty solid performer for the A grade so far this season, but there's unlimited possibilities with this, and we can't wait to see where it goes.
I think it might be a packed house next week. Guys, once again, thank you for joining. It was an absolute pleasure. We've run this podcast for about 50-odd minutes now. This was the first Pumas podcast brought to you live from Cooper's car at KFC Modbury.
Shout out to Isaac as well.
Shout out to Isaac at KFC Modbury. Guys, get around him. Get down to your local KFC. Support the locals. Say we sent you. Pumas 10 for a discount. And, it was... don't forget to comment on the That's Amore question of the night, which is, Cooper? Which is, what is in Tony Centrella's bum bag? Right. We want to know if you know. We want to know what you think you know. I'm James Dimopoulos. I'm signing out.
I'm Cooper Martin, and I am signing out as well.
And I was
Roberto,
Manticos.
Wrong guy.
And they were Corey Manticos and Roberto Antonelli. This was the Pumas Podcast. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yippity-dippity-doo-dah!